Welcome back to Velshi and Rule. President Trump continues to attack Hunter Biden, the former vice president's son. The president woke up tweeting about Hunter and Ukraine. Hours later, he was talking about Hunter and China. So for fact's sake, let's look at what has been debunked. First, Biden's son Hunter joined the board of a Ukrainian energy company called Burisma back in 2014. He was paid as much as $50,000 a month, but had no experience in natural gas, Ukraine, or regulatory oversight. That's all fact. The payments to Hunter confirmed by the New York Times. Second, critics claim that Hunter Biden's work for Burisma was under investigation by then Ukrainian prosecutor Viktor Shokin. That was not the case. Burisma was being investigated long before Hunter Biden arrived on the scene. His role specifically was not being investigated at any point. Third, former Vice President Joe Biden was the point person for Ukraine at the time. Biden threatened to withhold $1 billion in aid unless prosecutor Shokin was fired. But Biden wasn't alone. The United States and many other European allies wanted Shokin out. That's a fact. Joe Biden said it himself in a 2018 speech. Now, critics cry foul, saying Biden shoved Shokin out simply to protect his son from an investigation. That conspiracy theory was debunked. Biden and several Western nations pushed for Shokin's ouster because he wasn't doing enough to thwart corruption in Ukraine. And now, here we go with China.
China should start an investigation into the Bidens, because what happened in China is just about as bad as what happened with Ukraine.
Okay, let's bring in NBC News national security and intelligence correspondent Ken Delaney. And Ken, China, in 2013, Hunter Biden joined his dad, Vice President Biden, on an official trip to Asia. At the same time, Hunter Biden was forming a Chinese private equity fund. Hunter admits that he met with a Chinese banker during the trip, but calls it a social visit. 10 days after the visit, China issues a business license, clearing the way for the fund. Talk to me about how we should be thinking about this.
I think this is a great example, Ali, of something that would have been a news story had Joe Biden become the Democratic nominee. As part of the normal scrutiny that we in the media give to every presidential candidate, we look at things like this, and this doesn't look very good. It looks about as smarmy as Hunter Biden getting a $50,000 a month job on the board of a Ukrainian gas company. It's definitely legitimate, but there's also no evidence that I've seen or that anyone has brought to the fore that Joe Biden took any steps in his official capacity to aid his son. Now, you could argue, should he have instructed his adult son to not take these jobs that seem to jibe with Joe Biden's authority in government? Absolutely. And people have written that and said that. And this stuff was covered at the time, by the way. And people wrote stories and quoted ethics experts saying it's problematic. But the things that Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani are saying about these arrangements are completely fantasy. They've taken it into another level. They're calling for criminal investigations. They're assuming facts not in evidence when they could have just simply pointed this out. It might have been an effective political campaign technique. Instead, they're taking it to a new level, and they're harnessing the forces of the U.S. government in a very troubling way, seeking to investigate their political opponents.
Hunter Biden, obviously Vice President Joe Biden's son, but was a private citizen at the time, then and now. The president's daughter and senior advisor to him, who is a White House official, Ivanka Trump, she won approval for a total of 34 new trademarks from China last year, according to the AP. At least 5 more this year. And all of this while the Trump administration is locked in a trade war with China. Is the president on shaky ground making these kind of accusations against Hunter and Joe Biden, given what's going on in his own family?
Shaky ground is generous, Stephanie. He's in quicksand. This is the most conflicted president we've ever had. It's unimaginable that the founders could not have conceived of a president of the United States with a global business empire and children who are continuing to do business abroad, and without divesting this stuff like every other president did in history, and without disclosing even some of these business arrangements by submitting his tax returns. This is absolutely the pot calling the kettle black, and that's why. So anything that Hunter Biden and his children have done that may not look kosher, multiply it times 1,000, and that's the Trump empire. And, it's something that we've almost discounted because we're used to living with it, and there's other scandals obviously brewing with Ukraine, but we should never lose sight of the fact that this is a president who continues to earn money from international businesses while he's exercising his authority to conduct foreign relations with some of these very countries.
So back then, Donald Trump, Joe Biden made a statement about wanting to replace the prosecutor in Ukraine, and a lot of right-wing media sort of latch onto that as proof. See, he wanted to get rid of this prosecutor, so it must have been he must have been culpable. His son must have been involved. You heard the laundry list of accusations that have been debunked, theories about Hunter Biden's involvement in Ukraine. Is there enough there for anybody to be investigating? Do we know if the FBI is actually investigating? Donald Trump's going around the world telling everybody to investigate. If there's something wrong, someone should be investigating. Is that underway?
We have no evidence that there's any U.S. criminal investigation. And when I've asked people about this, they say, look, there really isn't an ethics law that covers the relatives of office holders. They are free to take these kinds of jobs legally. Now, ethically and appearance-wise, it may not be a good idea. And then in terms of Ukraine, we've seen Ukrainian officials say, actually, there is no investigation ongoing. And they're really, some prosecutors have said there's no evidence of wrongdoing, even in the Ukraine context, with Hunter Biden taking that job. It seems more an issue of ethics and appearance. And in fact, if there was a U.S. investigation, Ali, the biggest question we would all be asking right now is on what basis, and did the president order that, and was that proper?
Ken, thank you, sir, for your reporting. Ken Delaney is NBC News national security and intelligence reporter.
In the last hour, our colleague Rachel Maddow was on Andrea Mitchell Reports, arguing that the president's comments on the South Lawn earlier today render an impeachment inquiry basically irrelevant. Watch this.
I wanted to quickly ask you to expand about what happened on the South Lawn, because the president is now bringing China into it.
Yeah.
And,
your previous guest, Congressman Rose, was talking about this. I mean, the Republicans who are defending the president on this have spent the last couple of days essentially trying to make us not believe the White House notes about the call between Trump and Zelensky, make us not believe that Trump actually approached Ukraine about giving them something on Biden that he could use for his election. They've been denying that maybe that whistleblower got it right, denying that that call is accurately reflected in the way we're reporting on it and the way the House is pursuing impeachment on it. That's all out the window. The president walked out onto the South Lawn today, was asked, what did you want from Ukraine? And he said they ought to investigate Biden. And so I think his theory here is, you get caught, murdering somebody, and your defense is, yeah, I killed the guy and he needed to be killed. And so what? I mean, doing it in public makes it less of a scandal. I don't know. But they don't really need an inquiry anymore.
It is an interesting point. Doing it in public doesn't make it less of a scandal. Donald Trump is out there talking about the very things that make people think he should be impeached. And he's out there saying, yeah, I'm doing it. And by the way, China.
It doesn't normalize it. It underscores it.
It's fascinating. Hey, MSNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there and click on any of the videos here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more MSNBC for free every day with our newsletters. Just visit msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up now.